I mean, it's one of those things where recently, over the last 6 months, they've been doing this a lot. Joe Biden will come out and tweet, we're doing this to protect our children. And every time I read that, I'm like, no, they're not our children. They're not your children. They're my children.
100%.
If anyone's going to indoctrinate my kids, it's going to be me.
100%.
It's my responsibility. And you have no say in it whatsoever. And I think that's the line for a lot of people.
I'm hoping it is.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it is, because once they believe, I mean, I'll give you an example of the COVID vaccine. I know we keep going back to COVID. I know it's boring. We've all talked about it a million times, but
I think talking about COVID constantly is really important, because that's the moment that a lot of people really woke up to see all the irregularities in the world, to see the lies through the mainstream media. And it's almost like you have to keep on reminding people, because
they forgot.
It was only 4 years ago.
I know.
But it seems like another lifetime ago.
Yep.
You need to remind people that, because 4 years now, leading into the next election cycle, if you forget what they did during COVID and how they used it and weaponized it against you, like, you're not going to see it coming, which they're going to do again, maybe not through a pandemic, but they're going to do something similar this year also.
100%.
Constantly have to remind people.
100%. If you're a farmer and you have farm animals, you choose what vaccines and what injections go into that farm animal because you believe it benefits you. And that's what they did with the COVID vaccine. They saw us as nothing more than farm animals. And that's why I refused to get it. There's a lot of reasons I refused to get it. But I remember specifically saying, the government doesn't own my blood. It's my blood. The government can have my passport and my ID number or whatever. It is my blood. And if I get cut, I bleed it and I need it so I can stay alive. It doesn't belong to them. It belongs to me. And I decide what's in it. By extension, not only do they think of you as a farm animal because they get to decide what's in your bloodstream, if you have a farm animal and that farm animal has calves, they see that as their property also. The government sees you as property. You're just one of the ants in the ant farm, one of the cows on the farm, one of the robots in their big corporate machine. And your children belong to them too, in their mind. And they want your children to be good, productive members of the matrix, which means they want to psyop our kids. And that's why that's exactly why they don't want a strong man and a loving wife and a good nuclear family, because you're now competition to their psyop machine. Their psyop machine is the internet and YouTube, and all the people who tell the truth are censored. All the garbage is allowed under the guise of freedom. And if you have the largest YouTube channel in the world, one of them has to become transgender for some reason. And then they go to school and they're all told all this other garbage. And you're fighting a very difficult fight. You only have a few hours a day with your kid. They have 12 hours a day of endless propaganda, garbage, insanity. And that's done on purpose. And if you have a strong household, a strong family household, they see that as competition. They don't sit and say, we want America to be built on the back of strong families. They sit and say, strong families are stopping the children absorbing the slave programming. So how do we do this? How do we make sure the family is not as strong as it should be? Well, let's demasculinize the male, and let's use feminism to make the female intolerable, and let's make them both broke via inflation so they're busy working, and then let's take the kid away amidst the chaos as the man argues with the woman, and the woman keeps talking about some garbage feminist crap she saw on The View, and neither of them can pay their bills. We'll just slowly take the little child away, and we'll put them in school, and we'll start pumping garbage in their ear. And before you know it, the kid will come home and say it wants to change genders, and the man will say, I want to stop that. The woman, because she listens to a bunch of feminist shit, thinks that anything a man says is instantly wrong, so she'll support the kid's insanity. The father will lose control of his own child. The child will start taking pills and mutilate itself, end up suicidal and kill itself at 23. Like, this is all happening. I'm not making this up. This is all happening right now. In any other country in the world, that would be unthinkable. But in the West, they've got their psyops so well orchestrated, so well oiled, they're beginning to pull it off. And what do we say about incremental and slow? Right now, you hear examples of court cases where the man loses control of his own son and his son changes gender, and it's kind of a news story. In 50 years from now, no one's even going to care. It's going to happen nonstop because it's incremental and slow. Just like somebody being transgender was very rare 20 years ago, and now it's normal. I'd argue now in 50 years from now, the number of fathers who are going to lose their son to becoming a girl is going to be off the charts, and no one's even going to talk about it. How do you resist these things? Well, it's difficult, but this is the truth, right? So this is the truth that we have to show. When I'm talking about telling people about the chessboard, this is the truth. The legal system will see your kid as nothing more but a tool to cuck you with, just to teach you a lesson. And they're going to build a new legal system with AI, a new one, a stronger one, a fairer one. You have to be very careful of these people because they don't care about you. I like the word you said. It was a very good word you used. You said you want to indoctrinate your kid.
Yeah.
Correct. As do I. My kid will think like me. Why am I paying for my kid? Why am I raising my child? Why am I dealing with its mother and all her headache if I don't get to decide how my son's going to be? What's the point then? If we're all just one big goo of genetic mess and we're all just generic humans which are programmed by the Matrix, why even have kids? I'm having a child so it has my name and acts like me.
Yeah. And
even that, as baseline understood as that's been throughout all of human history, is under attack. If you can't tell your children to think like you, if you can't be a man and protect your household and protect your relationship and protect your woman, like they are attacking the baseline nucleus of the masculine psyche. In days of old, it was, I am Andrew, son of.
Yeah.
That's what it was all about. That's what it was all about.
Family name meant everything.
Oh, completely.
Yeah. Can we talk about the biggest YouTuber in the world and his normalization of a thing? Or is that something that you're not even allowed to talk about? Like, how off limits is that topic?
Yeah.
Because you know what I'm saying. And it's one of those things where if you put it out there and if we were to say his name and associate it, it's like insta hate.
Yeah.
And I enjoy his content. I think he makes fun videos. However, what he's doing is normalizing transgenderism amongst children.
Yes.
It's not amongst adults. The target audience is children.
Yes.
And it's normalization. But if you talk about it,
well, so here's the thing that's interesting.
like we haven't even said his name. Everyone knows who we're talking about. We can't.
Yeah. And I don't know the guy. And I'll also be honest.
Yeah.
I know the kind of videos he makes. I know
Yeah.
he makes like these prank or like these game show videos. I've never watched them, but I do know this. I know enough about the world and how it works to understand. And you have to base your worldview on probabilities.
Yeah.
Right? Like we said earlier, if I go stroke the lion, I'm probably going to get eaten. There may be examples where the lion doesn't eat me, but I think it's a good worldview for me to hold for the preservation of my bloodline that I avoid the lions. So when you look at scenarios where you don't have all the information, you have to come up with the probability. So what is the probability that of the 4 or 5 or 6 people who ever make this show, which is the largest and most famous show amongst children in the world, which has a whole bunch of corporate sponsorships, a whole bunch of money behind it, taking into consideration the things I've said about how they try to get me to sell my soul, that one of them decides to very publicly do something which adheres with an agenda they are trying very hard to psyop the youth with. And then the leader of this channel, Mr. Whatever, he very calmly and very cucked says, yeah, it's good. I support them. And did it because he knows he's going to get in a lot of trouble if he doesn't. And you're going to sit here and say that that's all a coincidence and there was no corporate powers involved and no money involved. And no one said to him, listen, you better support this transition because if you don't, you're going to lose your channel. Okay. And you're telling me that this all just happened organically and there was no plan at all. If you believe that, then you're an idiot. Then you're an idiot. And it's a psyop. And psyops are slow and incremental. And that's why a 5-year-old who's watching it now, who doesn't even truly understand what's going on, by the time he's 15, 16, 17, when he's arguing, saying, well, no, because, I know people who changed gender and they were happier than ever before. And I saw them before and then I saw them after and they were so happy and all their friends supported them. And that the psyop, they are after your kids. They are coming for your children. Everybody at home, because it is your children that are the future, which they want to control. When you have kids and you love them and you love your wife and you look into your beautiful smiling daughter or son's face, please understand that they are nothing but a tool for the Matrix and they are coming for them. They are coming for them. And if that doesn't panic you and you don't worry about that and you sit and say, well, we'll just let them watch YouTube. It's just one of them became transgender. Oops. Shit just happens. Oops. Well, then you're a dummy waiting to die.
It's funny how there are certain topics and certain things that if you were to have a stance on, it's like instant cancellation, right? Could you take it from both sides? This topic specifically, or even people always say, how come you don't speak about Israel-Palestine? Yeah. Israel-Palestine. I'm like, from my perspective of my history, of my background, I really don't have much skin in the game.
Yeah.
I'm not either. I don't relate to either. I don't feel like I have to take a side here. And if you don't take a side, both sides come at you and said, how come you don't take our side?
Well, no, you're right. And just to quickly touch back on that, I just had a thought regarding the situation we were discussing previously. We're not allowed to say Mr. Beast's name, so I won't say it. But
yeah, you can't say Mr. Beast's name.
Mr. Beast.
You can't say Mr. Beast.
No, but here's the thing that's interesting. If there was any honor amongst that group, and I don't have a problem with this guy. I don't know this guy. Yeah. I'm more famous than him anyway, so we're gonna probably meeting someday. I don't have a problem with him, but here's the thing that I find interesting. Let's remove the argument about transgenderism because they're going to sit and say that it's not his fault. He's born in the wrong body, blah, blah. And that's a dumb shithole I don't even want to go down. But let's remove it. Me as a man of honor, I believe that now, because of my massive influence, I have a responsibility. And I'll admit this now. There are clips of me that I made 10 years ago, which I don't think would be appropriate for 14 and 15-year-olds to see because I made them when I had no followers and no subscribers and I was joking with my friends and we were filming everything and it didn't matter. And now I understand with massive power comes massive responsibility. And I've had to curate my message and be slightly more careful knowing that every single word I say is watched. That's sensible. For you to become more famous and then be more careful about certain things you say or how you say them is the sensible thing to do. So if I was a member of this group of people and I decided to do something which was obviously sexually related, it was regarding sex in general, and it was obvious for everyone to see, and it was something that was going to raise a lot of questions, and it was going to involve sexuality amongst the lives of a bunch of people who shouldn't be thinking about sex yet, I would have enough honor to say, you know what, I've made enough money, and I really need to do this. I resign. And I do it in private. Why would I do that publicly? Irregardless, please understand, because they're going to argue this, not understanding I'm smarter than all of them. Irregardless of how important it is to do, irregardless of the fact that you believe it's essential, even if I agree with you that it's essential, even if I agree with you that you need to do this because you were born in the wrong body, even if I agree with all that, don't we all agree that doing something so obviously sexual for children to observe and question is something that shouldn't be happening?
Yeah.
So even if you do want to do that, and even if I agree you should do that, you should still resign unless it's a psyop. Unless you're going to sit here and argue the fact that you're trying to psyop the kids, which is what they'll do. Oh, but kids need to get used to the idea, psyop. So you are psyoping. Oh, but kids need to get used to the idea and they don't need to be threatened by psyop. So you're admitting it's a psyop. Because if it wasn't a psyop, you would have resigned and done it privately. Why didn't you want to do it privately? You have enough money. You've been making these stupid videos for long enough. You can pay your rent, sir. Or sorry, not sir, ma'am. But no, you want to psyop the kids. If you actually discuss this whole topic, you'll see it's very obvious that they want to psyop the kids, and that's the end goal of it. And they'll sit there and then they'll try and do, because I'm a professional and I know exactly how these people think, they'll argue the psyop is okay. But why should I hide? I'm proud. So they'll argue. Then they'll start arguing for their psyop, not understanding that they're just admitting I'm right. I'm right. You're psyoping kids. I don't want any child under the age of 10 thinking about sex in any way. Changing sex, dick, vagina. They have enough time for that as they grow old. They shouldn't be sitting there watching this and start going, what's going on? Why does he do that? And looking into it in general. The whole thing is haram, regardless of the fact whether you accept that he should become transgender or not. And that's the thing they don't understand. That's why they can't argue with me. I would love to sit down with these people, bro. I would rip them apart, which is why they're trying to keep me out of the club unless I shut up for their 50M.
I mean, it's one of those things where I don't care what you do as adult. I may not agree with it. Actually, I probably do disagree with it. But if you want to do whatever you want as an adult, it's your prerogative.
Yep.
Do whatever you want.
Yep.
Again, I don't agree, but I'm not in a position to tell you how to live your life. Don't indoctrinate my kids.
100%.
Don't push it on my kids. 100%. That's not your place. These are conversations I should be having, not some random guy on the internet.
100%.
You know, and I think that's the line for a lot of people. I feel like there's a lot of people where this is the line. I feel like a lot of people are waking up to this, even people that may be considered extremely liberal. You know, a lot of even people within the cities, single moms, they're like, look, I've been working my entire life trying to teach my son how to be a man. Yep. And now you're coming here and showing up and saying they don't have to be men anymore. And like, this is bullshit. Yeah. This is not your place to tell my kid how to grow up. And I think that's the line for a lot of people right now.
So what happens when the line is crossed? That's the interesting conversation, because even I don't know.
Yeah.
And another thing that people don't understand when I say that the matrix needs to crack, you do need some form of society. I mean, you do need some form of order. The order we have is corrupted. The order we have is wrong. It's not built on truth, but to a degree, it is a degree of order. It's not war outside in most places yet. So what happens when that line is finally crossed? And I feel like we are getting there, but I don't know if anyone's prepared for it. I prepared for it personally, but collectively, I'm not sure what happens. And this is why I teach the things I teach. And I say so much how important it is to be geographically free and make money and be strong and be brave and be adaptable. And people think I'm saying all these things so they can get girls and buy Lambos. No, I'm saying all these things so you can be the first one out of Saigon, because you don't want to try and be the last one. You don't want to be trying to get out when everyone else is trying to get out. You want to get out first. And you need to think ahead. That takes money. It takes connections. You need a visa. You need another passport. You need a house you need things. And I've come up with the answers for me, of course. But then you end up, it's kind of interesting. I talk about globalists all the time and the elites and how they have all this money and how they'll watch nations burn and disappear to another nation, etc. And then I catch myself looking and going, what?
That's you too.
Is that me? On my private jet with all my kids on my way to Switzerland to hide in the mountains in the bunker? Am I one of the? But you just get to a certain level of influence and money and power where you have the adaptability the common man doesn't have. The common man is stuck and tied to his land in one particular location, which is why the common man should be even more interested in defending the ideals of his nation, more interested in defending the ideals of his town, his city, and his land, because you're stuck there. I'm sticking up for all this stuff, and I'm not even stuck anywhere. I can insult the West all day long and bounce. I can go live somewhere else. Most people can't. So it finds amazing to me that they'll just sit there and allow themselves to just be decimated. They'll just sit on the ship while it's on fire, waiting for it to sink. And it's because they're a coward, and they'll get distracted by the Super Bowl, and they'll watch Taylor Swift chug a beer, and they'll get distracted by porn and distracted by garbage, and they'll just sit there, yay, sports team, waiting to die. And when I say die, I don't even mean it. Maybe you won't get assassinated. No, but your bloodline will be annihilated because your son will become a girl. That's what's going to happen. Or your son will get married to a woman who won't take his last name. What's the point in that? You are done. And it's because you sat there on your ass watching the Super Bowl like a dummy.